Evening, morning, whatever it is for you. Hi guys, how you doing? I'm Yalik, and this would be a DTs video, except Supercell killed the DTs, so now we are known as 5 Blue Lines. And I've not done one of these videos in quite a while because, being honest with you, 5 Blue Lines has been fairly hard to achieve. I'm not supposed to show you this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you this anyway. This is our attack log, and since we have had to reboot ourselves as 5 Blue Lines, you will notice that there are some fairly questionable results on some of these ops. And I would love to say that it's a fluke or whatever, but over the last month, since the last Mega Crab, when we had the best tribes ever. Now, if you notice, if you look at our stats here, Task Force created 20 days ago. That's completely all since that crab, and since we had the best tribes ever on that crab. All troop damage, 50% GBE, and so on. And I knew at the time that we were going to suffer when we got those tribes. I knew we were going to suffer with the tribes that were going to come after it, because you can't get tribes that are that good and not expect to be punished afterward. And we have been punished afterward. And it's not really a punishment per se. It's just that these tribes do, the tribes that we had for that crab were good for everything. They were good for crab, they were good for ops. They actually weren't good for PvP, because the two defensive tribes, Ice Guard and Frost Banner, sort of neutralized those tribes for PvP. But they were spectacular for crab and for operations. Well, since then, things have been rather lean. And if you look at these tribes, which are going into the next crab, which will be a few days from now, the end of January, there's not a lot here to help with operations. And that was the same for the last set of tribes that we had as well. There's really nothing for operations. And boy, I will tell you, as we look at this here, it is super helpful to have almost anything for operations. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's like cheap shocks or cheap artillery or extra GBE, or it doesn't even matter, cheap medkits. It almost doesn't matter what it is that is given to you, but anything that stretches your GBE or enhances your damage on operations is spectacular. And we've not had that for a good bit, because we had so much good stuff for the last crab. So I kind of don't feel bad for this as we look through this. Again, not supposed to show you that. But I feel like this is probably the same for everybody. It's pretty hard to adjust, I'm gonna say. And that's not really an excuse. If you're truly a boss, I guess it would not matter one way or another. But if you're not an absolute perfectionist, it's pretty hard to adjust to having regular tribes that aid you in some way in terms of your GBE or your damage or something that would help in operations, and then to have that completely taken away. So with that said, we've had some good days and we've had some bad days, and we are just trying to pull it together. We've been bounding up pretty rapidly on the leaderboard. This was yesterday, and we actually did manage for the first time as 5 Blue Lines to achieve 5 Blue Lines. This is today, and we've got 566 so far in terms of force points, and we've still got 2 hits left to do. Some kind of questionable bases left over. We'll see what we get. Either way, it'll be a decent day and we'll move up. Ideally, we would be running dead end as we were for a while here. But, you know, I mean, either way, it's about the points and what you can pull down. Yesterday, we happened to have a really, really good draw. And so we're going to run through these pretty quickly. I'm going to I'm going to skip the last one, Sven on quota. 5 blue lines, and that's all cool, but it was quota. And actually, I felt a little bad for Sven because we left him with quota, which is fairly boring. It's not a base that anyone is interested in really ever. So this was me on Dioxin. This is my second account. And this is a 5-5 account. Actually, I was kind of happy to see this right here. This shock mine, little bit of extra mine clearance there. This shock mine I figured would actually be kind of helpful. I was thinking it would slow brick down. Grabbed a little extra GBE over to that way. My troops did not pull in. That's my own fault. But my troops did not pull in quite as tightly as I would have wanted them to. Also, my flare was not as far to the left as it should have been. So you're going to see some troops right here sort of pop out. And there we go. And they're dead. But I've lost the delay on that. However, right there, Brick got ahead and got the shock mine, which I thought would be helpful. And as it turned out, it was, because then Brick and the Zookas sort of get to the kill spot at the same time. I believe I'm going to miss one of these shocks. I think I missed this mortar. Yep, right over there. But with a 5-5 account and a relatively low core health, 493, this was probably 1.2-ish total. It didn't actually matter because there were plenty of Zookas there to do plenty of damage. So that was a decent start, and I think that was the heftiest base that we had. That was 236. Yeah, so that was a pretty decent start. This was fairly nasty. This was 207 on the force points. And look at the shocks on this. So this is Rogue, aka Lego, and he's going for like 7-ish o'clock. So obviously you have these to deal with, but then you also have rockets here, here. Not here, but still, obviously one shock, definitely 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe 6. But actually, he figures out a way to pull this off with a bit less. I think he gets this in 5, and I actually want to see Smart with the beach landing there, covering himself up where he needs to, but not beyond that. Does he manage? Well, he got some of the machine guns activated there, but has he kept the delay with the rocket launchers? So far he has. These guys right here could actually just 2 smoke there. Use 3, but that doesn't matter. He manages to pull this off. I haven't exactly seen how, to be honest, but he manages to pull this off with 1 less shock. There it is, up there. Yeah, he managed to get all of these guys in just 2 shocks, which is pretty damn smart. That and that right there, just top of that machine gun. That shock is pretty brilliant. And so he instead of having to do 6 shocks, he gets this in 5, and that gives him all the time in the world. Again, about 1.2 on that. And that was fairly nice, not gonna lie. Because, I mean, with those shocks, either you pull them off or you die fairly quickly. This is me again. Finally have the max account back on endless reserves, and this is like the world's easiest Machina. You don't necessarily even have to shock down here. You have a shock up here, you have a shock up here, and you don't necessarily have to shock that, and definitely don't have to do any of these. So this is just a basic walk in the park, which is nice because typically Machina and I have we have problems. This kill spot could have been one smoked here, but you see I did two just because I wasn't going to take any chances. I also probably didn't need to full boost for this, but I went ahead and did because I wasn't going to lose. Let's just say that. To be on the extra safe side, and let's see, 3, 6, 1, maybe a million-ish, but yeah, was not going to lose, did not care, because, you know, we have finally had a decent draw here, and let's not screw it up. And then, I mean, I feel like I've shown this about 12 times before, but here's Andy on sliding block. It's kind of his thing. One of these days, I'm actually going to take a sliding block because, you know, I mean, I could use the practice. And he definitely does not need the practice because, I mean, this is just, I don't know. He does this in his sleep. Don't necessarily know that I wanted to have this one, although I actually saw a nastier one earlier this evening, which had extra rockets, like over, not just back here, but also over here, and plus the rockets here. Didn't necessarily want to start on that one, but this is, well, this is Andy, and this is pretty well par for the course. Not much to say on this. This is how you do sliding block. Just copy Andy. That spot, that flare spot up there right up against the wall is kind of key, though. It keeps you away from these mines over here. Inevitably, I've watched this so many times now, because I don't know how many times he's done this, but like if you flared out here a little bit, your troops might end up walking into the mines remaining over here, but right up against the wall. They seem to pull in on their walk, and that does seem to be pretty critical. And then the one shock over here, clear some things, flare opposite, and then another shock before your troops actually get into that spot. Really, that one wall shock right up here is kind of key. That at least is my theory on this. Probably should put that into practice a couple times before I go ahead and call that as the absolute Bible truth, but, you know, I have seen a bunch of these, and that does seem to be the read. This one is actually a bit more complicated than most of them. Looking at this one, obviously the one shock there. Now, ideally you get one shock right here, right between those two machine guns, and then that should get all of those, plus you're going to have one shock here. He gets this down, obviously, but kind of he misses that shock there by, I think, one tile, so that leaves this machine gun going. The four defenses right in a row. That no, actually it was 2 tiles. That's always a fun shock to pull off. Either way, it doesn't matter, because at the thing with sliding block is, by the time you actually get to the core, you've done a bunch of damage anyway, and every building every defense that you've destroyed, whether a defense or cell or whatever, has taken health off the core. So the core is usually pretty well damaged, which is what convinces me that one of these days I'm actually gonna go ahead and get one of those bastards for myself. Not gonna show Sven on quota because quota's boring, and I'm pretty sure that's how Sven felt when being left with quota, because I'm pretty sure he didn't want to do quota, but we took all the fun bases and you know, ahead of him. So I'm sorry about that. Let's see. We've got Sven on Machina and Sven on Javanese from today. Anything from the day before? I don't remember that one. No. Try to show something fun. I guess we'll go with the Javanese. It was not the hardest Javanese in the world, but he had a really good Callisto, a few... Shock mine, that's a slightly different thing there. He had a pretty nice Callisto going back maybe 4 or 5 days or so, but that was pretty much the best thing that we had going in that operation, so there was not a whole lot else to brag about. So that one didn't end. The replay would be gone, so it's not going to end up getting shown, which is unfortunate. But it was a very, very clean Callisto. Thought that was worth watching, but unfortunately the rest of us didn't produce anything else that was worth watching, so that one gets lost. But this here is a nice Javanese, standard walk. Pretty friendly up at the top. Two shocks. Got about the most out of those shocks that he could. Tons of time, and 1.4, 1.5 or so on the core. Tons of girls left. You know, I'm sure that's not a hit that he would... What's this one? I think this was a fairly easy Javanese also, or a Machina also. Yeah. 3 shocks. Not a ton of mines to clear. Not much to be said there. I wish I could show you that Callisto, but it's not there. Regardless, well, it was worth watching, but it's gone. So for today, or last stop anyway, there you go, 5 blue lines. Like, I would love to say that things have been smooth and easy since we started this, but I don't feel like it's just us saying that things have been difficult, and it's partly because the tribes have been difficult. And I think this goes for everybody when I say that you sort of underestimate the benefit that the tribes give you. And when those benefits go away and it's just you again, and you have to play cleanly and no mistakes and no waste of GBE or anything like that, boy, it is a lot harder. And obviously when we had the best tribes ever, that was great for us, and I'm pretty sure that was great for everybody. And you can kill, I mean, we were killing dead end like absolute bosses. But guess what? When that went away, things did get harder. And I don't think it just got harder for us. So I'm pretty sure that goes for all but probably maybe 10 or so teams at the top of the leaderboard. Like, I'm not about to be embarrassed by, you know, the sort of slippage, if you want to call it that. This stuff is really hard. It's not easy, and there's a fun to it, but it's a sort of a masochistic fun where you're always pushing yourself every day to do the absolute best, to like absolute perfection. And some days that does not work out for you, and it's hard to be reminded that, you know, you have these limitations. But on the other hand, it's also kind of it's nice not having things made easy for you. It gives you a continued challenge, and one way or another we continue to rise up the leaderboard. We jumped on that last stop, which I think we pulled, 811 force points. We jumped 200 points up the leaderboard. We had reached position 33 before we had to kill the DTs because of the name change forced on us by Supercell. Thanks, Supercell. Not really. We'll get there eventually, but I mean, one good op boosted us up 200 points. We'll get there, and we'll get there again. But in the meantime, you know, there's this, and kind of speaks to what the tribes add into the game. At times like this, you struggle a little bit. At other times, you really benefit. These tribes will be spectacular for crab, and probably that's good because I think everybody will benefit. I do hope whatever the next set of tribes we get will be a little bit more op-friendly, something with a GBE boost of some kind. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's, I mean, shock cost. If there's a reduction in shock cost, then that's a boost to your GBE. It stretches your GBE further, and therefore you can do more things. Smoke cost, whatever it might be. It doesn't just have to be extra GBE. You get more GBE from many, many different attributes, as long as it reduces the cost of something somewhere, if it's an ability that you use in operations frequently. So that would be great, because we've had a couple of pretty lean tribe cycles as far as GBE goes. So, you know, we're just plugging along, trying to get back to where we were, and trying to find our mojo again. So, to my guys, you know, congratulations for sticking with it and rebuilding anew after, well, you know, that whole shit show from Supercell. And to everybody else out there, just keep it going. That's about the best we can do. Anyway, hope you have a great night. I will catch you later. Take care.